Haribo, Haribo. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. All right. Do you like to play cartels? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Janadandana Jasodanandana Braja Janadandana Jamanatira Chadi Jamanatira Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Janadandana Jasodanandana Braja Janadandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavadin Lord Premanandi. Text 6, yes? Huh? Okay, great. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So we're reading this morning from Canto 10, Chapter 27, and the text number is text 6. And these are prayers by Varuna to Krishna. Here we go. Namastubhyam Bhagavate Brahmane Paramatmane na yatra shruyate maya loka shristi vakalpana namastubhyam bhagavate brahmane paramatmane na yatra shruyate maya loka shristi vakalpana. Namaha, obeisances, Tobhyam, unto you, Bhagavate, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahmane, the Absolute Truth, Parama Atmane, the Supreme Soul, Na, not, Yatra, in whom, Shruyate, is heard of, Maya, the illusory material energy, Loka, of this world, Shrishti, the creation, Vikalpana, which arranges. Translation. My obeisances unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Soul, within whom there is no trace of the illusory energy which orchestrates the creation of this world. And this is chapter 28, so this is not Prabhupada's purport, but it's BBT purport. The word Shruyate is significant here. Shruti, or Vedic literature, consists of authorized statements made by the Lord himself or his enlightened representatives. Thus, neither the Lord nor recognized spiritual authorities would ever say that within the Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, there is the fault of illusion. Srila Sridhar Swami points out that the word Brahmane here indicates that the Lord is full in himself, and that the word Paramatmane indicates he is the controller of all living entities. Paragraph. Thus, within the Supreme Being, complete in himself and omnipotent, we do not find any jurisdiction of the material illusory energy. Now, the commentaries on the verse itself is pretty direct. And then what comes after that is Jiva Goswami and others speaking about what this verse is speaking about. That is, the Bhagavan feature and how to distinguish the Bhagavan feature from the Paramatma feature, from the Brahman feature. So this is authoritative, although he's a demigod, he's not Krishna, but it's within the Bhagavatam, so it's definitive about Krishna's position. And the acharyas are helping us here look at the different features of Bhagavan, the Paramatma, and Brahman features. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, commentary, you, this is Varuna speaking, you are approached by the three paths of bhakti, jnana, and yoga. I pay my respects to you as Bhagavan, Brahman, and Paramatma. The objects of the realizations of those three paths, bhakti, jnana, and yoga. Those who say that these realizations are tinged with Maya are mistaken. These realizations are not touched by Maya, which creates various things. Very succinct. Jiva Goswami writes, Varuna offers respect to his greatness, Krishna's greatness, in devotion. He offers respect to the Lord, complete with 6 qualities, Bhagavan, and all types of liberation, to the Antaryami of all beings, to Brahman, the invisible Shakti of the Lord for those with meager qualifications, which appears as oneness of, and he quotes Taittiriya Upanishad, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, eternal existence and knowledge. So a meager picture of the absolute truth is the Brahman feature. Meager qualification. So the Brahman feature, or he's calling it the invisible Shakti of the Lord, is the object of realization for Jnanis. The form of the Lord is not Maya, since Maya produces bodies for the jivas, but has no power over you. This shows that the Swarup Shakti, his spiritual potency, someone was asking the other day, what's this internal potency? Other terms here, it's Swarup Shakti, produces. The Swarup Shakti produces various qualities, form, and powers of the Lord. I am most successful in seeing you, the Lord, with such qualities today in my house. Sanatana Goswami writes, Varuna offers respects to his greatness and devotion, showing the cause and effect in sequence. Worshippers of the Supreme Lord, Para-Brahman or Paramatma, here Para-Brahman he is shortly going to say means Bhagavan. Worshippers of the Supreme Lord, Para-Brahman or Paramatma, attain Vaikuntha. Very rare to attain by realization. Krishna, but I'm just a coward boy. Well, you are Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman. This is expressed in celebrated verse, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabhyate. But in the above verse, Brahman is in the middle to express that the Lord is also Brahman, though it is inferior to the other two. All these forms have no trace of Maya. And then finally, Para-Brahman, or Bhagavan, manifests in the absence of a relationship with Maya, in forms like Paramatma or the Supreme Lord. The forms of the Lord arise by his special Shaktis. Again, Indra's, I am most successful in seeing you, the Lord with such qualities, today in my house. Reference of this morning's verse is made in Jiva Goswami's commentary on 27.2, which I'm going to read. I hope. Yeah. So, chapter 27, this is chapter 28. So, chapter 27 is the prayers of Indra and Surabhi after the Govardhan Leela. So, text 2 of chapter 27 reads, Indra was very ashamed of having offended the Lord. Approaching him in a solitary place, Indra fell down and lay his helmet, whose effulgence was as brilliant as the sun, upon the lotus feet of the Lord. So now, reference to this verse that's on the board, the three features of the Supreme Lord that that Varuna is understanding. His commentary says, it is said in the first canto, Canto 1, Chapter 16, Ete Chanya Cha Bhagavan Nityayatra Mahaguna. These, Mahaguna, these and other qualities are eternally present in the Lord. Since those qualities are eternal, they are spiritual. This is going into the argument that there's no material contamination in the Lord, which is what Varuna was saying. The absolute truth has no tinge of Maya. So it's all explaining that. It was stated previously that the Shrutis prove Bhagavan. One should also say that they do this directly, otherwise, how could they be called the most auspicious? They are also accepted as self-proved, and their truth is demonstrated in the Bhagavatam. Thus, both parties, and especially you, knowledgeable of the greatness of the Lord's name and form, should respect the Vedas as direct evidence. Otherwise, I would not ask the question, by what method do the Vedas directly speak of Brahman? Please tell me the method. This is resolved by Shukadeva in the second verse. The Lord created intelligence and the senses for understanding the Vedas. Matrartham. Because the Vedas know the Lord's qualities and activities beyond the gunas. For the jivas, who are of great variety and give rise to humans, jananam, who were merged with Prakriti in the Lord during the Mahapralaya, He created intelligence and senses for the jivas' prosperity, so that they can attain enjoyment on planets up to Brahmaloka, for revealing the nature of the jiva and for understanding the nature of Bhagavan, who is devoid of the functions of Maya. So, what was all that about? Through bhakti, we engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses, when done so, they become spiritualized, and they then have the capacity to perceive transcendence. When the senses are covered by Maya, they're not. One will not see transcendence or perceive in any way, the ears, the eyes, etc. Varuna is now quoted, having said, "My obeisance is unto Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman, within whom there is no trace of the illusory energy which orchestrates the creation of this world." So there's purified senses that then become mixed with the contamination of Maya, and then we have material existence. So, on considering the meanings, this is these three features, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, there is always imperfection. For a person understanding the words of the Vedas, the two previous meanings ultimately become one meaning, that's Bhagavan. For attaining satisfaction with the previous meanings, which is devoid of later realizations, the final meaning becomes more and more attractive with later additions. So what's he saying? The Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan feature is made complete, and it's very satisfying as one begins to understand Bhagavan. So focus on understanding Bhagavan. That's what the bhakti process is for. And then he ends quoting Canto 2, Chapter 2, where Brahma studied the Vedas 3 times, completely with his intelligence, and determined that process which produces prema in the self. So this is substantiating his earlier statements. The mind and the intelligence and the senses are meant for understanding the Vedas. Brahma applied the principle, studied the Vedas 3 times with his very special intelligence, and he reached the right conclusion. That is, the Vedas are teaching the process for producing prema in the self. So the mature fruit of the Bhagavan conception through service to Bhagavan. It's a little sticky or technical, but because it goes on. Again, it's Jiva Goswami doing what Jiva Goswami does. He's parsing, he's dividing messages from the Vedas, this particular verse, that's the point of focus. And are we really clear? Are we really justified in worship of the Supreme Person in his Bhagavan feature? And what about the other features and the other features? And do any of them have any tinge of Maya? Because Mayavadis like to say that. So it's scriptural reference with explanation to us how to properly understand. Even if the technical points are Jiva Goswami-esque and a little difficult, just feel purified. So there's 2 more references. He's making reference in Bhagavad Sandarbha to Canto 11, Chapter 3. That's the Navyogendras being met by King Nimi, and King Nimi asks questions. And they're elevated questions, and they give very elevated answers. So the reference here is Canto 11, Chapter 3, where Pipalayana Rishi has been asked some questions about transcendence, and specifically the topic is Bhagavan, because that's what this verse is about. He's Bhagavan and also Brahman and also Paramatma. So Pippalayan Rishi is being asked about the Bhagavan feature. The specific reference comes in the next little section. So here, and this is very early, this is Bhagavad Sandarbha, the second Anuchhed. So it's a very early scriptural reference that Jiva Goswami is making to establish Bhagavan with clarity. Okay, so I'm just going to read now. According to the order mentioned in the question, Pippalayana answers by first describing Bhagavan. The question had several parts. The Bhagavan question is first. Bhagavan is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction, and is also not the cause. He is outside of the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep states. By him the bodies, senses, and pranas are brought to life and move. Knowing this form of Narayana alone, according to the sequence in the question from the king, know this form of Narayana to be the supreme tattva. In order to make the meaning of Brahman clear, Bhagavan is first explained. Since this tattva, Bhagavat tattva, has been explained as one only with differences of quality and no quality manifest, that's Bhagavan and Brahman, there are differences in the names of the manifestations of Brahman and Bhagavan because of the different realizations of the respective worshippers of these forms. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's question, which is better, worshipping the impersonal personal, he gives the explanation, worship the personal is better, he gives his reasons. But those who worship the impersonal, they don't realize Bhagavan. That's what's being said here. The absolute with quality, the absolute without quality, they're both in transcendence, no touch of Maya, so the qualities of Krishna are not Maya. His capacity for creation is not tinged with Maya, although it comes from him, it also doesn't come from him. This much should be said. Bhagavan is called not being the cause of creation because he resides indifferent to the creation by the actions of his Swarup Shakti. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction through his form as Paramatma, who stimulates Prakriti and Jiva into different conditions. Know that form of Bhagavan. He is established as Bhagavan by full manifestations of his Shaktis. So by his Swarup Shakti, which includes all of his, it's a category that's all of his spiritual potencies. He does so many things, but he doesn't do those things because it's his potencies doing those things. So he's not the creator, but he's the creator through the agency of his potencies. The condition of Paramatma is then described. By him, everything is brought to life. By his entering everything in the form of the jivas, who are his anshas, and being impelled by him, the body with pradhan and all elements, the body and senses are made to perform their various functions. Know this to be the form of Paramatma. So, referring back again to Sridhar Swami's, keeping it simple, the Paramatma function, the function of Paramatma is to assist the jivas. I mean, that's a very simple way to say it. He oversees Prakriti. And Prakriti is to help facilitate the jivas, get what they want or don't get what they want or whatever it is. See, he oversees the jivas. That's Paramatma function. And that Paramatma function is less than complete expansion of Bhagavan. So we need to understand each of the features properly. That's why this explanation is here. Varuna praises Krishna, this verse that's on the board. My obeisances unto Bhagavan, Paramatma, and Brahman, within whom there is no trace of the illusory energy which orchestrates the creation of this world. The commentary says, that's Sridhar Swami's commentary, says, Paramatma means the monitor of all jivas, unquote. He is called Paramatma because the jiva's nature as Atma depends on him. Paramatma means that he assists the jiva. Then Brahman without qualities is described. Know Brahman as that which exists in waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, and in samadhi as chin matra, or consciousness alone without qualities. It's a little elevated, but we're getting a picture of these different features and how they relate, and how to understand the import or the fullness of what Varuna is saying in this verse. First and foremost, Bhagavan. Brahman is in the middle, Paramatma is at the end. No feature of Maya, although it's that same energy that brings about the creation. And next is, again, Bhagavat Sandarbha. Jiva Goswami starts this particular Anucheda by quoting the verse that's on the board. In the Lord's Swarup of three forms, Bhagavan, Paramatma, Brahman, Maya does not exist. His appearance does not arise from Maya. Some people say the opposite. The reason is given. Maya has control over creating, and destroying the material world only. And asking about Bhugola, or earth with its divisions, Parikshit says. So Bhugola is juxtaposed with Bhumandala. They both, Bhu refers to the earth, and Bhugola refers to earth as a globe, and Bhumandala is the flat topography of earth, or the earthly region. Bhuloka is when Bhumandala, the flat topography of the universal form. So it's specific. Maharaj Parikshit is asking, it's the very, very beginning of the whole Vedic cosmology section. It's a very important verse that people that speak about Vedic cosmology refer to all the time. So he's asking, Maharaj Parikshit is asking to explain this Virat Rupa. O Guru, the mind fixed on the Lord's gross form, made of matter, Bhugola, can absorb itself in the supreme Brahman, Bhagavan, Vasudev, light of the soul who is beyond matter. Therefore, you should explain the structure of the universe. So those of you that like reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you know that Canto 2, Chapter 1 is the universal form. And the description of the universal form in Canto 2, Chapter 1 looks really different from what we find in Canto 5. But it's universal form, it's just a different picture of the universal form, through a different lens or different perspective. But it's the universal form. And Vedic cosmology is the universal form. I mean, it's explicit. That's the question that's being asked. And the answer is universal form, the structure of the universe. Now, what the verse, this one on the board, is saying is there's no trace of the illusory energy within Krishna, who orchestrates only the illusory energy orchestrates the creation of this world. So he's the creator and he's the non-creator. He's the overseer, he's the non-overseer. That is, everything is being done by his Shaktis. And it's kind of simple in one sense, and it's kind of not so simple in another sense, because how his energies are working is quite bewildering. Even if you accept the principle, it's everything's happening by Krishna's potencies. And so he's not changing, he's the unchanging. So he's not the creator, but he's the creator in the sense that it's his potencies that are doing everything, and the potencies are spiritual because they're within him, his Swarup Shakti, and then they do things, but there's no Maya in his Swarup Shakti. But then there's Shakti Parinamava, the transformation of those potencies. And then comes creation, and comes withdrawal of the creation. Living entities covered by Maya, and Krishna draws back the curtain of Maya, and it's all happening by his volition, but he's doing nothing. Continuing, Jiva Goswami quotes Canto 2, Chapter 5. I meditate on the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, by whose insurmountable Maya people call me the Guru of the universe. This is Brahma. The ignorant jivas, bewildered by Maya, who is ashamed to stand in the sight of the Lord, boast about I and mine. So Maya is not in the Lord, but Maya is one of his potencies. It's deluding potency, Yogamaya Samavrata. It's the transformation of the internal potency, Yogamaya, comes the deluding potency, Mahamaya. Continuing, ignorant jivas like me, Brahma speaking, are bewildered by this Maya, which is ashamed to be seen by the Lord, who is without fault, filled with eternity, knowledge, and bliss, while Maya is filled with faults, like tamas. Brahma speaks to Nanda. In contrast, Bhagavan's body remains perfect, though creating the world. It's all adding to this explanation, or having a deeper understanding of what Vruna is saying. And we're almost done. It's Anuchhed 4 from Bhagavat Sandarbha. The nature of Brahman and Bhagavan are revealed in the following questions posed by Maharaj Nimi and answered by Pipalayana Rishi. Varuna is just making statements, succinct. Later, Nimi is asking about what he's saying, and Pipalayana gives detailed explanation of what Varuna is saying. So that's why we're reading it. Canto 11, Chapter 3. King Nimi inquired, please explain to me the transcendental situation of the Supreme Lord Narayana, who is himself the absolute truth and the supersoul of everyone. You can explain this to me because you are all most expert in transcendental knowledge. And the reply, Sri Pipalayana said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe, yet he has no prior cause. He pervades the various states of wakefulness, dreaming, and unconscious deep sleep, and also exists beyond them. He pervades the different states of consciousness of the jiva, and at the same time he's beyond them. By entering the body of every living being as the Supersoul, he enlivens the body, senses, life airs, and mental activities, and thus all the subtle and gross organs of the body begin their functions. My dear King, know that personality of Godhead to be the Supreme. Now, back in Canto 5, as well, even really, really clearly in Canto 3, the universal form is there, but even the universal form can't do anything. There's the 24 elements, there's the demigods presiding over the 24 elements, and there's the universal form that's doing nothing. So there's this description, they try to wake him, this way, that way, nothing happens. And then Vasudeva enters the universal form, and he rises from the causal ocean. It's like, imagine a movie or video on that one. So that's universal form, but if the universal form can do, then we can do, but we can only do with Paramatma. Paramatma is overseeing everything with the jivas. Say it negatively. Without Paramatma, the jivas can't do anything. Now, they need the sanction of the demigods, but the demigods get their power from Paramatma. And that's Paramatma. Then there's Bhagavan, from whom Paramatma expands. He's the doer and the non-doer. It's far out. Continuing, Maharaj Nimi's question may be explained in the following way. The word Narayana, Abhidhanasya, means of Bhagavan, who is known as Narayana, and Nishtha means the transcendental situation. The Lord's features as Brahman and Paramatma are mentioned in this verse as his appearance, specifically within the material world. He appears as Bhagavan in the spiritual world, and his appearance as Brahman and Paramatma is limited, for the most part, to the material world. This is confirmed in the following statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this goes into Uddhava Gita 11:15. Narayana, who is known as Bhagavan, appears in the spiritual world, Turiya, unlike other manifestations of the Lord that appear in the material world. In this verse, that's this Pipalayana Rishi answer. In answer to King Nimi's question, Pipalayana speaks the next verse. He says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of the creation, maintenance, and destruction of this universe, and he has no prior cause. He enters the body of the living entities as the Supersoul and enlivens the body, senses, life airs, and mental activities, and thus all the subtle and gross manifestations and organs of the body begin their functions. Within his answer, Pipalayana says, please know that personality of Godhead who appears in the form of Narayana and other forms to be the Supreme. This explanation clearly describes the Bhagavan feature of the Supreme, for the Brahman feature has a different description. The three features of the Supreme mentioned in this verse have different names, and they appear in different ways to their worshippers. Each is distinct from the others. Brahman is different from Paramatma, and Paramatma is different from Bhagavan. Pipalayana Muni answered the question of King Nimi by describing the Bhagavan feature of the Supreme. And goes on. Little technical. I think you get the picture. Here's an interesting one. The Paramatma feature of the Lord is the constant companion of the conditioned soul, but he is always their superior, and therefore he is called Paramatma, or the Supreme Soul. In the verse from Pipalayana's answer, the Brahman feature of the Supreme is described in the following words. He pervades, this is the Brahman feature, he pervades the various states of wakefulness, dreaming, and unconscious deep sleep, and also exists beyond them. The word cha in this verse distinguishes Brahman from the invisible living entities. Excuse me, the individual living entities, pardon me. Quote, there are individual living entities and there is also Brahman. So this is Pipalayana Rishi's verse, breaking down what's on the board here. So there's one more section, but I don't know if I should go through it. Should I go through it? Yes? Okay. Nobody's asleep yet. Raktak, you're awake, right? Okay, good. Okay. Last, again, it's Bhagavad Sandarbha, that the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are completely spiritual and not at all material is confirmed on this verse that's on the board. I don't have to read it again. In this verse, the word yatra refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is manifest as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He is never under the influence of the external material energy. Maya na shruyate. Maya's jurisdiction is limited to the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the various material universes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual and beyond the limited material universes. Therefore, he is not within Maya's jurisdiction and he is not controlled by her. As he was asking Srila Shukadeva Goswami about the geography of the Earth planet, that was this 5.16.3, please describe the universal form, confirming that the personality of Godhead is beyond the reach of the material energy in the three modes of material nature. And just translates that verse again. When the mind, here's the translation of that verse, 5.16.3. When the mind is fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his external feature, made of the material modes of nature, the gross universal form, when the mind is fixed on that feature, it is brought to the platform of pure goodness. In that transcendental position, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, who, in his subtler form, is self-effulgent and beyond the modes of nature. So, aside from, the classic question that people ask, like, where does this all come from, and those kinds of questions scientists ask, Big Bang and so many things. So it's an inquisitive person will ask, and the answer is provided in the Bhagavatam with a specific purpose. Not just figured out and, get the cause and effect of things, but it's to bring the mind to the point where one can understand Bhagavan. The whole purpose of the Vedas, intelligence and senses, and connect with the Vedas to understand Bhagavan. So all of what we're doing here, it's just one verse. It's Varuna in his abode, appreciating that Krishna has come and appreciating what Krishna is, and all of this commentary is to help us understand Bhagavan, Krishna, and his different features. So there's the Brahman and Paramatma feature and Bhagavan feature, and then there's this universal form feature. And it's connected to the statement made by Varuna, that this feature of Maya, which is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, that there's no Maya within Krishna, although he's the cause. It's through it's through the agency of his potencies. And their potencies are all spiritual. But he can engage his potencies however he likes. Just like he engaged Yogamaya to become Durga from Krishna's appearance. That little lesson when he summoned Yogamaya, told her to do this, that, and the other thing. And then when Kamsa tries to kill you, he won't be able to, and then you go throughout the land and appear as Maya or Durga, and by different names in different countrysides or cultures. And Maya has us pretty wrapped up, and she's doing her job. And how to get on the other side of Maya? Well, do what we're doing. Take shelter of Krishna, and shelter of Krishna comes through sound, through kirtan or japa, the name, and the Bhagavatam. So we can have touch with that which is of transcendence in its different features and understand it very carefully. And even if we don't understand it so well, because it's a little elevated, and we're not used to those topics, the sound vibration is purifying anyway. And gradually through purification, consciousness becomes freed from covering and can start to understand things it couldn't understand before. The main essence is bhakti, because that was how the previous verse, this is text 6, the previous verse ended. Commentary, Varuna has understood bhakti. That's my goal. And then from bhakti he is expressing his realizations. So let's see if there's some discussion. Oh, because you have to go back in. Okay, go ahead. No? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for class.
Turn it down a little bit. Volume. Yes.
I was having a very different opinion for Chin Matra, but your clarification made things many clear to me that Chin Matra is only a Brahman feature, and there is no spiritual variegatedness, there is no spiritual variety, right? And Chin Matra?
That's what I read.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Okay. My question is that both Jnanis and Bhaktas, they realize the Paramatma feature. Now, does the Paramatma feature realized by Jnani is different from Bhakta?
Interesting question. Now, most Jnanis, you have to go. Okay. Most Jnanis they're not realizing the Paramatma feature. Most Jnanis, they're realizing the Brahman feature. But there are some Jnanis that meditate on the Paramatma feature, and their take on the Paramatma feature is that's me. Which doesn't make sense. The observer and the observed are not the same. But that's their take on Paramatma. So it's quite incomplete. Whatever realization they have, it's quite incomplete. Your question is it the same? No. It's incomplete.
One feature. That's also incomplete from one feature, right?
That's their number one attraction, is the Brahman feature. So your question specifically was?
So my follow-up question was, Gnani also realizes...
Slower.
A follow-up question is, the Gnani also realizes Brahman feature, but that Brahman feature is realized by Bhakta also. It's way different, right?
Oh yeah. They don't see the connection, and the Bhakta sees the connection. Those that are Gyanis, they have an aversion. Gyanis have an aversion to the personal feature. Now, obviously, the four Kumaras didn't have an aversion. As soon as there was some contact, or the Shukadev, as soon as there was some contact, no aversion. But the Gyani specifically, not Brahman realization, but the Gyani has an aversion, a predisposition against Bhagavan feature, the personal feature. And they philosophize away. He has no potencies, or is covered by Maya, or whatever they say. They're stuck. Yes, it's very different. Okay?
This appreciation of the Gnanis that four Kumaras, they have heard from Brahma, the father, about the features of Krishna, but they haven't seen Krishna any time. And when they enter Vaikuntha, just by smelling the tulsi leaf, they got attracted.
Thank you.
So, Krishna has many energies.
Many what?
Energies.
Energies.
Yeah, Shaktis.
Yes, Shaktis.
And we don't hear about all of his Shaktis, but mostly we hear about his Hladni Shakti and Maya Shakti and Jiva Tattva.
Yeah, okay. I think we hear more than that, but that's okay. Srishti Shakti, and here's so many. Okay.
So we were discussing about how Krishna appears in the material realm. He's never under the influence of his material energy. He comes under the influence of his internal potency.
Yes.
So although they are both his energies...
Although
both the internal and external energy are his energies, still he voluntarily places himself under the internal energy.
Did you get it?
He voluntarily puts himself under the internal energy, although both are his energies.
Well, he doesn't voluntarily put himself under the internal energy. It's his internal energy is his internal energy. He doesn't put himself under. His energies are under his control, not he's controlled by the energies he puts himself under. The language is a little awkward. I think I know what you mean, but he is always within the internal energy because it's his energy. And whether he's in the spiritual world or in the mature world, he's within or he's surrounded by, or he's engaging with his internal energy. That's wherever he is. So it's not even so much a choice. It's just he's never covered by Maya at all, because it's an illusory energy. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, because the reason why I was asking is when the cowherd boys went into the mouth of Aghasura,
Yeah.
then we hear that he was actually covered by his
But
own...
that was his own will. He was enjoying. He was having a party. Hey, so by his indication, by his desire, Yogamaya did what Yogamaya did, and by his desire, Yogamaya did the next thing that was withdrawn, and he did the next thing. Everything, the moving force is his Ichcha Shakti. And then all his energies, he didn't have to do anything. His Ichcha, that's it, and everything happens. Prasya Shakti Vivadaiva Shruyate, that. And that's in relation to spiritual and material activity. Does that respond to your question?
Yeah, yes, Maharaj. Actually, my follow-up question was, like when Krishna performs his pastimes in the material world, his associates, eternal associates like Arjun, all of them also come with the Lord. So they are also never under the influence
That's
of the
correct.
external energy.
That's correct. That's correct. Now, those personalities, those souls, may be giving their association to those that are in the transit lounge, from moving from material to spiritual. But they're spiritual, so they're giving spiritual shakti to those that are in the transition from the material to the spiritual. You're getting trained up like that. Okay.
You have a question?
He's right there.
Maharaj, I don't know you have time or not, but there's a big discussion that you read so much commentaries. I really very hard to digest. And think one question was coming to my mind, and I was reading that Arudhi Devidas's book, that you have also given commentary on that her book. So she was writing the process of creation. In the process of creation, in second canto, chapter 5, she is writing that false ego is coming before mode of nature. And again, Prabhupada is writing in the next verse, some verses, that is false ego means gunas, means material mode of nature is coming first, then false ego is coming. So if you see the structure of our universe, we can see pradhana, you said, pradhana, that is made of mind, intelligence and false ego. So I am confused, what is the sequence, whether false ego will come first if you come from spiritual world. If false ego will come first or mode of nature will come first. That is confused because Arudha Devi wrote that false ego first, then gunas. So Prabhupada also
Did you get it?
confused.
Wow.
At what stage does the false ego manifest from the spiritual to the subtle to the gross? In other words, in the sarga or the visarga
Okay.
process, is
Okay, got
it ego before the modes or modes before the ego?
Here's how it works. Everything exists with Krishna in the spiritual realm. There's several references. And creation, it's an event within time as we know it. But those entities exist in time, in the absence of time as we know it. Time is conspicuous by its absence, so eternal. Creation is an event within time. It comes and it goes within time. So when it's time, keeping it simple, there's the glance of Mahavishnu, and the glance of Mahavishnu carries samasti, the totality of living entities, entrusted to the glance by Ramadevi and time. Now, the living entities have karma that's suspended because time has been withdrawn. But when time is added, again injected, within pradhan, along with the living entities, then their karma and their previous involvement with the modes of nature become stimulated or activated. They're carried, so you're looking like chronology. They're carried with the living entities, but with time, then they become activated. But karma can't do anything without elements, the rest of the elements that are there in the spiritual world. But so the first, when the glance of Mahavishnu contacts pradhan, the first element that separates out within pradhan, because it's undifferentiated, the material false ego separates out. So your question is a chronology question. Which comes first, this or that? The living entities have suspended karma and suspended involvement with the modes of nature, but contact with time, it becomes activated. So the modes are there, activated karma is there, but it can't do anything without the elements. Guna and karma can't do anything without the elements. So the first element that separates out from pradhan is mahatattva, is false ego. And then false ego mixes with the modes. And then different elements further manifest. So you get the whole warehouse, all the elements you need to make creation. So that answers your question? The modes are there, and karma is there, but in their nascent state, infancy state, they're not fully manifest yet, because they've been dormant, and now they're just starting to awaken. Then comes false ego.
Okay, so for my understanding, what you said, what I grasped, if I'm wrong, please correct me. So you said that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also said that same thing in that comment, in that. So he said that you nicely explained that to me. I was confusing, also getting confused. Thing is that first you said that is when from the Mahatattva, so living entities, that also you are reading in commentaries in today, very nice point you gave. So living entities, they came with, they were in the Karanadaka Sahib. So then what happened? Then you said that when time of time of creation starts. That time, that living entities came with, you said, karma, and Vishwanath Chakra also said karma and nature, prakriti. And they were, karma and nature, they were impregnated by Lord Shiva in mother of, earth. So then Maya is coming to play the action. That's what you said. Time, the Kala is coming. So from then, Aradhita Devi writing, after Kala agitating, then false ego is coming. Because I want to lord it over. Then they are bound by the gunas, mode of nature.
It's really complicated, and I can't understand it. Did you understand it?
He's just trying to repeat what you mentioned, but if I can comment that first is pradhan, then false ego. Is that correct?
Pradhan, I'm looking at the clock, and I have an important call that I have to attend to, so I can't explore this unlimitedly back and forth. Pradhan means the undifferentiated state of the totality of the material energy. There's different names, Prakriti, Mahatattva, Pradhan. It's just describing different features of the same thing. So Pradhan means undifferentiated state of the totality of the material energy. Everything is in there, including false ego. But it has to separate out. And once all the elements separate out, it's given the name Mahatattva. And the first element that separates out is false ego. And then false ego mixes with the modes and different things come. False ego mixing with the mode of goodness produces the mind. False ego mixing with passion produces intelligence. False ego mixing with ignorance produces other things. And then now you get an undifferentiated Mahatattva with different parts. It's just a different state of Pradhan that's sequential, chronologically sequential. The Mahatattva is all the elements differentiated. Pradhan is everything undifferentiated. It's a big warehouse all jumbled up, and everything's in the warehouse. And then it's differentiated.
We have a lot of internet questions also.
A lot of online questions?
Yes.
Well, I also have an important call, so I can take a couple of questions, and then I have to go. I can't take them all.
Okay, Vidyasaran Potinedi. After hearing the Nrsingadev stories from Pankajangari Das, can you help me understand whether it's right to compare the merciful nature of Nrsingadev and Krishna?
Is it right to compare the transcendental nature?
The merciful nature.
Merciful nature. Well, Bhagavan is Bhagavan is Bhagavan. And he, Bhagavan, manifests his mercy in different ways. He manifests his mercy in different ways. We can say, yes, we can say there's a difference because different personalities, different features of Bhagavan manifest their mercy in different ways. But it's the same mercy, manifest in different ways.
Okay, from Girish Gorsundar Das. Is Shabda Brahman personal or impersonal feature?
Shabda Brahman is everything. Shabda Brahman is Krishna. Krishna manifests Shabda Brahman. And within Shabda Brahman is everything, just as within Krishna is everything.
Okay, from Sanda Mataji. What is the difference between Namabhas and Namaparad towards the holy name? From C.C. Adi Leela.
Well, a really simple explanation, especially because of time. Abhas means one is trying to overcome offense. And offense is one is not trying to overcome offense. Now, there's details to that, but, let's just say, like Shishupal was speaking in scorn and derision. Now, he wasn't trying to overcome offense. It was offensive. But he was calling Krishna's name, and it had great potency. But we find in Canto 6, Chapter 1, the way in which Shishupal was calling Krishna's name was Namabhas, or like say Ajamila. The way that Ajamila was calling the name Narayana was unintentional. That's another category of Namabhas. So rather than detail in detail, a short principle is when one is, for us specifically, when we're trying to overcome offense, then it moves into Namabhas stage. We accept Krishna's divinity. We're not opposed to Krishna's divinity. We're not realized in that yet, and we're chanting Krishna's name. So there's offense in our chanting, but we're trying to overcome it. And as we're trying to overcome it, then it has the Abhas category. That's a simple explanation.
Okay. Vishalaksha Das asks, Paramatma is expansion of Lord Krishna, and Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, always think of me. devotees should focus on Paramatma feature in their heart or Lord Krishna form?
Any.
And Ratika Mataji, you said that when the mind is fixed on the universal form, it achieves transcendental goodness. Is that only when there is bhakti in the meditation on the universal form?
Well, bhakti arises from contact with a bhakta. So, when one is receiving the instruction to meditate on the universal form from a bhakta, it's different than one who meditates on the universal form from a Mayavadi. The result is different, yes.
Okay, last question. Is the realizations from chanting Mahamantra in a pure stage encompassing of the understanding of or realization of the universal form, or the Virat Rupa?
Do you understand the question?
By pure chanting, will you also realize the Virat Rupa?
Well, you have to follow instructions about, so if we say, just chant Hare Krishna and everything is there within the chanting of Hare Krishna, it does not mean that you just turn your intelligence into the off position and you just chant Hare Krishna and everything is there. Rather, there's ongoing involvement with Krishna Tattva, that intelligence is required and decisions are required and hearing is required and so forth. So it's not automatic. It requires further involvement as attraction to be in Krishna's service awakens from the Mahamantra and to understand the nature of the served, the nature of Krishna. So it's a qualified yes. You okay? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki?